Imagine standing outside a brick building on a Tuesday morning. It's cold. Maybe it's raining. You've got a folder tucked under your arm, tight against your chest, holding the papers that prove who you are and what you've worked for your whole life. You're there because something's wrong with your check. Maybe it didn't come. Maybe the amount changed, and you don't know why. You need to look someone in the eye and get it fixed, because that money is the difference between heating your home and freezing. It's the difference between eating and going hungry. You pull on the handle of that door, expecting to see a friendly face, a neighbor or civil servant ready to help, but the door's locked, the lights are off, and there's just a sign telling you to go to a website you don't know how to use. Folks, before we go any further, I need you to join me in this. We are fighting for the very soul of this nation. Right here, right now, hit that subscribe button. Become a member of this channel. Stand with us, because we need to be loud enough that they can't ignore us. Now, here's the deal. That locked door I just described, that isn't just a nightmare. According to some very alarming reports coming out of the Senate, that is exactly what this administration is planning for millions of you. We aren't talking about chump change here. We are talking about Social Security, a sacred trust. And I'm reading about a letter sent by Senators Elizabeth Warren, Ron Wyden, Bernie Sanders, and Kirsten Gillibrand. They are sounding the alarm, and God love them for it. They've got their hands on leaked internal reports, documents the folks in charge didn't want you to see, that show a plan to cut in person visits to Social Security field offices by 50% in 2026. 50%, that's roughly 15 million visits gone. Poof, just like that. They call it modernization. They use fancy words to dress it up, but let's be plain about what this is. When you take away 15 million chances for a human being to talk to another human being about their lifeline, you are modernizing anything. You are dismantling the service. You are slamming the door in the face of the people who built this country. The senators are calling it a quiet attempt to kill these offices, a backdoor cut to your benefits. And you know what? They're right. It breaks my heart to see it. You know, my dad used to say, Joey, a job is about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. Well, the same goes for your retirement. The same goes for disability benefits. It's about the dignity of being able to access what is rightfully yours, jumping through hoops that were designed to trip you up. This administration, led by Donald Trump and his appointees like Commissioner Frank Bisignano, they seem to think the government is just a business. They think if they can cut a corner here, slash a job there, they're being efficient. I hear they're calling it efficiency mandates. Some of it tied up with this new DOGE initiative we keep hearing about, but let me tell you something I learned a long time ago. The United States government isn't a corporation. Its shareholders are the American people, and its product is service. What happens when you close those offices? They tell you to go online. They tell you to call an 800 number. Have you tried calling lately? You get stuck in what these senators are calling a doom loop. You press 1 for this, 2 for that, and you end up listening to bad music for 3 hours until the line goes dead. Or you get told to log into a website. Now think about your grandmother. Think about a veteran with a disability. Might not have high-speed internet in rural Pennsylvania or out in Oregon. Think about the folks who never grew up with computers. This administration is saying to them, figure it out or you're on your own. It's cruel. There's no other word for it. It is plain cruel. They say they want to reduce the workforce, they want to cut costs, but the cost they are cutting is your peace of mind. Senator Wyden pointed out that this is an administrative failure waiting to happen. And Senator Warren, she hit the nail on the head. This is an attack on the working class. It's always the working class that gets left holding the bag. We're seeing a pattern here, folks. It's not just Social Security. It's a philosophy that says if you aren't rich, if you aren't powerful, if you can't hire a lawyer to navigate the system for you, then you don't matter. They're trying to make the government so small, so distant, and so robotic that you just give up. They want you to get so frustrated with the doom loop that you hang up the phone and walk away from the benefits you paid for with every paycheck you ever earned. I've looked in the eyes of people who rely on these checks. I remember meeting a woman in Scranton, lived in a row house, not far from where I grew up. She told me, "Joe, if this check is late, I don't buy medicine." That is the reality. That is the stakes. And to treat that reality like it's just a line item on a spreadsheet, to be slashed by 50%, it's shameful. It's not who we are. America is better than this. We take care of our own. We don't hide behind automated phone trees and locked doors. You know, in my time in the Senate and certainly in the White House, I learned a simple truth about how government is supposed to work. If you have a good idea, if you have a plan that helps people, you shout it from the rooftops, you hold a press conference, you bring it to the floor of the Congress, and you debate it in the light of day. You say, look at this good thing we're doing for the American people. But when you hide it, when you tuck it away in an internal report that you hope nobody sees, that's when you know something is wrong. That's when you know it's a bad deal. That is what has got the hair standing up on the back of my neck right now. Senators Warren and Sanders and Ron Wyden, they aren't just upset about the cuts. They are upset about the secrecy. They're using words like quietly kill. Think about that. They aren't trying to improve the system. They're trying to quietly suffocate it. They want to shut down these field offices without you noticing until it's too late. This Commissioner Frank Bisignano, he's got a responsibility to you, but the senators are saying he's taking a slash first, think later approach. It reminds me of the old days on Wall Street where the only thing that mattered was the bottom line for the quarter, not the people who actually did the work or the customers who needed the product. But Social Security isn't a hedge fund. It is the bedrock of American stability. Why the secrecy? Why not come to the American people and say we want to close half the visits? Because they know you wouldn't stand for it. They know there would be an uproar. So they do it in the shadows. They call it efficiency. They hide behind these mandates coming from the top, from Donald Trump and his advisors who look at a spreadsheet and see numbers to cut, not faces to help. It's a pattern we are seeing everywhere, decisions made in back rooms that fundamentally change your life without your input. That isn't how democracy is supposed to function. We deserve a government that looks you in the eye and tells you the truth even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. But this is sneaking around the back of the house to lock the door while you're still inside. It's a breach of trust, and trust, once you break it, is a mighty hard thing to put back together. Let's talk about what happens when that door actually closes. I want you to picture a fellow named Jim. He's 75 years old. He worked hard his whole life, paid his taxes, maybe worked in a factory or drove a truck. His hands are a little stiff now. His eyes aren't what they used to be. He gets a letter saying his benefits are being cut, and he doesn't understand why he's scared. He needs help. In the America I know, Jim puts on his coat, goes down to the local Social Security office, waits in line, and sits across from a civil servant who pulls up his file and says, "Let's fix this, Jim." But under this new plan, Jim goes to the office and it's closed. A sign tells him to call a number. He calls, he hears a robot, press 1 for English, press 2 for claims. He presses buttons. He waits on hold. The music plays, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. an hour, maybe the call drops. That's what the senators are calling customer service doom loop. You go round and round and never get an answer. Or maybe they tell Jim to go online, just log in. They say, well, folks, not everyone has a computer. Not everyone knows how to navigate these complicated websites that crash half the time. When you force people onto technology they aren't comfortable with, you are effectively telling them they don't count. You are building a wall between them and their livelihood. This push for efficiency, and I hear a lot about this Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Lately it sounds nice on paper. Who doesn't want to be efficient? But there is a difference between being efficient and being effective. It is not efficient to force a 75-year-old veteran to struggle with a website for 3 days when a 10-minute conversation could have solved the problem. That's not efficiency, that's neglect. We are seeing a move toward a government that is untouched by human hands, a robotic government. And I'm telling you, machines don't have empathy. Algorithms don't care if you can't pay your rent. A website can't hold your hand and tell you it's going to be okay. We are losing the human touch in the very places where we need it the most, and it's the most vulnerable among us, the elderly, the disabled, the folks in rural areas who are going to pay the price for this so-called modernization. Is just not right. Part 5. You know, there's a term the senators used in that letter that really stuck with me. They called this a backdoor cut to benefits. Now, what does that mean? It means they aren't brave enough to stand up in Congress and pass a law saying, we're going to give you less money. No. They know they'd lose every election from here to Sunday if they did that. So instead, they make it impossible for you to get the money you're owed. It's a strategy. It's cynical and it's dark. If you make the line long enough, if you make the website confusing enough, if you make the phone hold time long enough, some people are just going to give up. They'll walk away and the administration saves a buck, but at what cost? Senators Sanders and Gillibrand, they pointed this out specifically regarding our folks with disabilities and our seniors. These are the Americans who often have the hardest time getting around or using new technology. When you take away the face-to-face option, you aren't just changing a service model. You are actively discriminating against the people who need help the most. You are putting a padlock on the safety net. I think about the folks who worked the late shifts, the ones who stood on their feet for 40 years in factories or hospitals. They paid into this system every single payday. They saw that FICA line on their pay stub. That wasn't a tax, that was an insurance premium, that was a contract. And now in 2026, when they need to cash in on that contract, the current administration wants to tell them, sorry, we're closed. Go talk to a machine. It's a breach of faith, and it fits a pattern we've seen too often lately. It's this idea that government service is a burden to the state rather than a duty to the people. When Elizabeth Warren says this is an attack on the working class, she isn't just using political rhetoric. She's describing a reality where the system is being rigged to work only for those who have the resources to fight it, leaving everyone else out in the cold. Now, I've sat in the Oval Office. I know the pressure to balance a budget. I know the pressure to make things run smoother. But there is a right way and a wrong way to do it. The wrong way is what they call slash first, think later. That's what the senators are accusing Commissioner Bisignano of doing. It's this mindset driven by Donald Trump and these new efficiency mandates that looks at a Social Security office and sees a liability instead of a lifeline. They talk about this Department of Government Efficiency, this DOGE initiative. They frame it as cutting waste. But folks, helping a grandmother understand her survivor benefits isn't waste. Helping a veteran file for disability isn't waste. That is the core job of the United States government. When you try to run the government like a failing business that you're trying to strip for parts, you lose the soul of the institution. You can't automate compassion. You can't write an algorithm for dignity. I'm worried that we are heading toward a future where you can't find a human being in your government to speak to, a future where everything is hidden behind a login screen. And if you make a mistake, good luck fixing it. We have to ask ourselves, is this the America we want? An America where efficiency is more important than humanity, where saving a few dollars on office rent is worth more than the peace of mind of millions of seniors? I don't think so. I really don't. We are a nation that looks out for one another. We are a nation of neighbors, not users in a database. And we deserve leaders who understand that the customer, in this case, is a citizen with rights, not a cost to be managed. You know, there's a word we don't hear enough of these days in Washington. That word is service. When I was coming up, public service meant you served the public. It meant you were there to help. It wasn't about trying to hide from the people you work for. But this plan to cut 15 million in-person visits, it turns that idea on its head. It treats the American people like a nuisance to be managed, not a boss to be served. I look at what's happening and I see a government that is retreating from the people. They are pulling back, they are retreating behind walls of secrecy and layers of technology. And they are doing it under the guise of modernization. That's a lot of malarkey. Modernization should make your life easier, not harder. If you invent a new system, leaves millions of seniors out in the cold that ain't progressed, that's a failure, what gets me is the lack of courage. If you think closing these offices is good for America, stand up and say it. Have the debate, but they know deep down that this is wrong. They know that if they stood on a stage and said, we are going to make it harder for you to talk to a person about your Social Security, they'd get booed out of the room. So they do it quietly, they leak it in internal memos, they hope you're too busy trying to put food on the table to notice that your local office is turning into a ghost town. We can do better than this. We have to do better. A government of the people, by the people, and for the people means you have to actually interact with the people. You can't govern by remote control. You can't run a democracy on autopilot. You need to be there on the ground in the communities, listening to the struggles folks are facing. When you close that door, you stop listening. And when a government stops listening to its people, that is a dangerous path to be on. I want to give credit where credit is due. Senators Warren, Wyden, Sanders, Gillibrand, they are fighting the good fight here. They sent that letter to Commissioner Bisignano because they know what's at stake. They are demanding transparency. They are saying, show us the plan. Tell us the truth. They are doing their job, but they can't do it alone. This isn't just about politics. This isn't about Democrat or Republican. I don't care who you voted for. Your check is wrong. You deserve help. If you've been paying into the system since you were 16 years old, you deserve respect. This is about basic fairness. It's about the promise we make to each other as Americans. The administration, with this efficiency mandate, they are looking at the cost of a lease or the cost of a salary. They are crunching numbers, but they aren't measuring the cost of anxiety. They aren't measuring the cost of a family going hungry because a benefit was denied due to a computer glitch. Those are real costs. Those are human costs. And they are far more expensive than keeping the lights on in a field office. I worry that if they get away with this, if they successfully, quietly kill these services, what's next? Do they come for Medicare support? Do they cut back on veteran services? Once you accept the idea that the government doesn't need to show up for you, it's a slippery slope. We are watching the dismantling of the infrastructure of care in this country. And we are watching it happen in real time. They call it a doom loop on the phone, but if we don't speak up, we're going to be in a doom loop as a society spiraling away from the values that made this country strong. We need to demand that the doors stay open. We need to demand that when we call for help, a human being answers. It's not asking for too much. It's asking for exactly what we were promised. There is a better way to do this. I refuse to believe that the only path forward for America is to shut the lights off and walk away. We are the country that put a man on the moon. We are the country that connected the world with the internet. We can certainly figure out how to keep a Social Security office open in your hometown while still having a website. That works. It isn't rocket science. It's a choice. This administration is choosing to cut. They're choosing to shrink, but imagine if we chose differently. Imagine a government that said, we know the population is aging. We know more folks are retiring every day. So we are going to hire more people to answer the phones. Imagine if we use technology to help the workers do their jobs faster instead of using it to replace them entirely. That is what a government for the people looks like. It invests in the service because it values the citizen. You don't modernize a house by tearing out the foundation, you reinforce it. And the foundation of Social Security is trust. It's the promise that when you need us, we are there. Every time they close an office, they chip away at that trust. Every time they hide a report, they chip away at it a little more. And if we aren't careful, we're going to wake up one day and find that the promise has been broken. Not with a bang, but with a busy signal. We need to demand a halt to these secret plans. We need to tell Commissioner Bisignano and President Trump that efficiency cannot come at the expense of our dignity. If they want to change how Social Security works, do it in the light of day, let the senators debate it, let the people have a say. Don't hide it in a memo and hope the seniors don't notice until the doors are locked. We deserve better than that. We deserve a government that respects us enough to tell us the truth and serve us with pride. Folks, I'm telling you this story because the mainstream news might give you the headline, but they won't always tell you what it feels like for the guy standing outside that locked door. We are at a crossroads. We can either accept a future where we are just numbers in a broken machine, or we can fight for a future where we matter, where our government sees us, hears us, and helps us. I still believe in that America. I believe in an America where we take care of our own, but we have to fight for it. We have to be vigilant. These cuts are happening quietly because they count on your silence. They count on you being too tired or too distracted to push back. Well, I know the American people. We aren't quiet when it matters, and this matters. So I'm asking you to do something for me and for your neighbors. I need you to make some noise. If you agree that we need to keep these offices open, if you believe in a government with a human touch, hit that like button right now. It helps more people see this message. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you've had trouble with these offices. Let's get a conversation going that they can't ignore. And please subscribe to the channel and become a member. Join us. We are building a community here that stands up for the little guy, that stands up for the truth. We need you in this fight. We can let them quietly kill the services we rely on. We have to keep the lights on. We have to keep the door open. Thank you for listening. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.